Welcome to Research and Survey. My name is Tamodu, and with me today on Research and Survey is our guest, Miss AB. Miss AB has a master's degree in information technology, and she works as a software engineer in South Korea. Miss AB, welcome to Research and Survey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Understand that you were on scholarship while you were studying for your master's degree. Can you narrate your story, how you got the scholarship?
Yeah, sure. Well, in Nigeria, it's actually 12. They select 12 people for the postgraduate, and the undergraduate, I think, is just 4. So it's really competitive, and yeah, it's not easy to get. Although it's also not that difficult because there are a lot of scholarships out there, and most of them, from my experience, require you to take a test, not just an interview. But for this one, you had to take only an interview, and if you passed, then literally you get the scholarship. So I actually thought it was a little bit weird because there was no test, and because I was used to writing tests. Like, I applied for a number of scholarships during that period, and that was the only one that I didn't take a test for. So I didn't really take it very seriously. I'm like, okay, well, let's just apply and see how it goes. And so I applied and I got shortlisted for the interview. Amazingly, I went for this interview. I can remember vividly, I was the last person out of 12 people that were shortlisted for the interview. I was the last person. Was it 12 or 15? I can't remember now, but I was the last person that took the interview. And I went in there, and it was like, there were like 4 panelists. There were 2 Nigerians and 2 Koreans. The 2 Nigerians were from the education board. So they asked like technical questions. But the 2 Koreans, they only asked questions about my interest in Korea, why I want to study in Korea and stuff like that. And the interview went well, so I eventually got the scholarship.
I would like you to describe your weekly routine while you were doing your master's degree.
Right. During my master's, it was more like a full-time job, because when I was in Nigeria, I was also working full-time before I quit my job and came to Korea, right? And when I came to Korea, in the science field, you still had to, or engineering field, you had to go to a lab. You had to go to a lab every day. You had to be attached to a professor or an advisor, and you had to go to the lab every day from like morning until evening. So my routine was from morning, 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 p.m. And whenever I had classes in between, I would go for class and then go back to the lab until 6 p.m. So it was like 10 to 6 every day. And so it was pretty much wake up, go to the lab, do research, because you had to like publish papers. So do research, pick a topic first if you're new, then start doing research, make publications. When you have classes, because during the semesters we usually have classes. So when you have classes, go for your class and then go back to the lab until 6 p.m. You go home. So that was literally my routine every day of the week. But I didn't have to go to the lab in the weekends. Luckily for me, my schedule was flexible, so I didn't really have to go to the lab in the weekends. I've met people that had to go every single day of the week, but that was not my situation.
Monday to Sunday.
Right.
Communication between you and your professor, how does it look like? Does a professor speak English, or how were you? Because I believe in research, communication is very important.
Very important. Yeah, that's why it's a really good question. Actually, my professor kind of like speaks English only about 50%. So communication was a little difficult. I wouldn't deny that. However, we still managed to make it work, because before I started my master's, I had to study Korean language for a full year. My first year in Korea, it was part of the requirements for the scholarship that I was on, the GKS scholarship. So I had to do Korean language. Because of that, I had some basic Korean speaking skills. So I was able to complement my English or my little Korean with English to be able to communicate with him, and he also did the same. So the parts where he couldn't speak in English, he would speak in Korean and I'll try to understand, and the parts where I couldn't speak in Korean, I would speak in English and he would try to grab it. And so that was just how we worked together, and it was a pretty good relationship. I was glad I was able to go through that and finish my master's in record time.
Okay, all right. Based on that, I would like to ask this question. Did you experience anything that you got shocked?
Cultural shocks. Well, I kind of knew them before I came, because like when I was in Nigeria, I watched a lot of K-drama. So I kind of knew the things that were different between Korea and Nigeria. So I expected them already before I arrived. things like you had to take off your shoes all the time in the when you get into your home. Even though in school, like, you didn't have to do that, but yeah, I had to learn to do that because I'm someone that doesn't really like walking barefoot. So it was really hard for me to adjust taking off my shoes, like when you get into a home and stuff like that. But I got used to that, and I think I pretty much got used to the food also pretty quickly, because it was just the first week I remember that I wasn't really eating much because the food just didn't sit well with me. But after the first week, like, I adapted very well, and I can tell you that I really love Korean food now. And I think
okay, continue.
another thing that was really weird was how people would stare at you, because I'm a Black woman in Korea. There are very few Black people here. So I had to get used to walking on the streets and seeing a lot of people turn their eyes to look at me. Like, they would literally turn their entire head sometimes just to look at you. And so initially it was weird, but then I got used to it, because I come from a country where everybody was Black, so there was nobody looking at you weirdly or anything. But then you come here and then suddenly every eye is on you, and it was weird. But now I'm pretty much just used to it.
Okay. I think you missed one or two things there. One thing I could remember then was there's a question which they usually ask about age, questions which I believe is somehow strange from the country from Nigeria.
Oh yeah, yes, that's true. Koreans ask about, that's like the second thing they ask you after your name. What's your name? And then what's your age? Like, how old are you? That was also weird, because in my country, like you rightly said, nobody asks you your age. It's like a personal thing, right?
Not even a lady.
Exactly, especially a lady, right? It had to be for some official thing before anybody would ask you your age. But here, it was something that was normal. Then I got to understand, when I asked questions, I got to understand that the reason why they do that is because they want to know how to address you. Because in Korea, they have the way they speak to the elderly, the way they speak to their age mates, and the way they speak to the younger people. So they want to know how to address you. That's why they ask you for your age. So it made sense to me in that sense.
Okay. So let's move on quickly. I would like you to share your most stressful moment during your research.
Whew. Times I do not like to remember. Oh my God. At some point, I would literally feel like crying, because every topic I wanted to pick, somebody had already done something, and it was important for my professor that I did something novel. So I'm like, how am I supposed to find something that nobody has done? Every single thing I pick, somebody has done something. So it took me a long time. It took me about 2 semesters to be able to figure out a topic to work on, and even that wasn't novel. I had to like just tweak it in order to add something extra to it to make it different. Yeah, so that was really stressful for me, having to like figure out what to do. And then after that, then I had to work on my program to be able to bring it to life so I can have a publication. But yeah, after I was able to publish my paper, then I had a breathing space, so it was fine. But that process, I didn't enjoy it at all. It was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. So yeah.
Then your enjoyable moment during your research.
What moments did I really enjoy during my research? I don't know. I didn't really like research, so I can't say there was any part that I enjoyed. Yeah, I didn't really enjoy research much. I think when I come across interesting papers, I enjoyed reading them, but because I had to read tons and tons and tons of them, it became something like a routine, and it was boring. So okay. I didn't really enjoy it much anymore. But
let me rephrase this. The enjoyable moment during your research. That is, whether in the lab or out of the lab.
Okay, well, the things I enjoyed was the flexibility. So as a student, I had the opportunity to be able to travel, like brief trips, like go around, do sightseeing when I'm out of the lab. I was able to take longer breaks, because now as a worker, that's almost impossible. So I enjoyed like taking time off from activities in school to be able to do stuff outside. I also enjoyed having to, outside the school or lab environment, having to relate with my professor, have dinners together, have lunches together. That was something that in Nigeria you would never expect. Like, nobody would expect you to sit down with your lecturer to have a dinner or a lunch. It was almost impossible. But here, like, it's like a free thing. They even encourage it. Oh, let's go out and have a drink. Oh, let's go out and have dinner. Let's go out and have lunch. So it helped us to build good relationships with our advisors, and it was really, really good. So I really enjoyed that part.
You were on scholarship during your master's research. Right. I believe in your department, or some of your friends, also your colleagues, there were some that were not on scholarship. Probably they were maybe self-sponsored.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that you have certain hedge over them as regards to finance, or there are things you could do because maybe you are financially capable. There are things they could not just venture into because of financial burden.
Well, yeah, I think that privilege was there. As a scholarship student, I got stipends as well. So I didn't have to work any part-time jobs to be able to make ends meet. But I realized that some of my mates that were like self-sponsored and they were not from privileged backgrounds, they had to literally go after school. They had to go to their part-time jobs to work, to earn money, to be able to sustain themselves. And that was like extra burden upon them because they had to think of research and how the difficulties of research and also go to work after. I couldn't imagine doing that. So I was really, really grateful for the opportunity to be able to focus only on my studies. And yeah, I had that edge and it was good.
How would you rate your own professor with regards to your research direction, to the success of your research? How would you rate your professor? Was it forthcoming? Was it assisting you? How would you rate?
Well, for my professor, he didn't have any problems. He was pretty easygoing. So it was easy for us to come to like a conclusion on what I would do. At first, when I arrived there, I didn't know what I was going to do for research. So I asked him, okay, would you direct me, give me some tips or some topics, a range of topics that I can pick from, so I would be able to like go and read about those and see which one has my interest. And he prepared some and he was like, okay, check this out. But I didn't really like what he prepared. So he was like, okay, he has tried his best. He prepared some, but I didn't really like them. So I should go on ahead and, come up with something. So I went and I did more research and I was able to come up with something. And then when I showed it to him and I made a presentation, he saw it and he was like, oh yeah, of course you can do it. He approved that. So it was pretty easy for me. I didn't have any problems. I didn't have any back and forth. So mine was pretty simple, straightforward.
So, well, in summary, your professor is kind of flexible to research direction.
Yes. Yeah. Also, another
professor. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, another reason why I think that was also the case was because my professor is old and he was about retiring. So he had only like 3 more years to retire. So at the position where he had already accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in research. So he wasn't really caring much about what direction his students wanted to go anymore. Like he literally was just counting down until his retirement. So it was easy for him to just say yes to everything. As long as it made sense, as long as you could prove your results, he was fine because he had everything under his belt already. So he didn't really go back and forth with we that were the students at the time. So that was also part of the reasons why it was easy and flexible.
Let me insinuate this. Are you saying those with younger professor, my flexibility might be difficult? Are those who have younger professor who are just at the mid stage of their career? Flexibility
I can say that, but not 100%. So it still depends on the personality. I do agree with younger professors. Like you said, they are hungry for research in the direction they are heading towards, in the direction they are interested in. So if a student comes, and even though it's the same domain, but the student wants to focus on something different, there might be a conflict of interest and it might be difficult for the students to win on that one. Okay. So yeah, that's something to take note of.
Okay. So what are the core values? Now you successfully completed your master's degree. So what are the core values to success in master's degree research?
I think
from your experience,
the first one, from my experience, the first one, get a research topic as early as possible in your master's. You have 4 semesters. Well, usually in Korea, it's 4 semesters, which can be extended if you have like a more difficult research. So if you want to graduate in 2 years, you want to be done with your master's in 2 years, get a research topic as quickly as possible, as early on as possible, because that could delay you for a really long time. Like you pick one and then it's not working out along the way, you have to switch. So, but if you get something that you want to work on and you've researched about it and it's something that is viable, it will save you a lot of time. It will give you a lot of time to do all the research you need to do about that particular topic and make all the publications you need to make in time for your graduation. Because if you don't, then you might have to extend. So the first thing I would mention is get a research topic as quickly as possible. Maybe in your first semester, if possible, try to test the waters with different topics, see which one you're aligned with best, which one you're interested in, which one your professor also agrees with. And then in your second semester, you should start working as soon as possible. So you're able to get all your publications in place, depending on what your school requires. And then you're able to publish and get your thesis done. So by your final semester, you're literally only just taking the, dotting the I's and, getting ready for graduation. So that would be my main key point, to get your research topic as soon as possible.